Who ready? We ready. Who ready? We ready. Who ready? We ready. Who ready? We ready. Motivation to youth only. Mentally feel like Kobe. I'm like Jokic with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me. I don't care if you pushing 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili. From young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats. Circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's the reach. We ready. Who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the one-on-one sports show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I am Mr. Bennett, joined, I know my man Shawnee's in the back, about to join us soon. We got the coach coming up as well. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight on this. We're in the second weekend in November, so we're in the thick of it with the NFL and all kinds of activities going on. Appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you hit the like button, certainly as you come in tonight. Certainly it helps us. We appreciate it. Also consider dropping a Cash App or a Super Chat, certainly to the Black Man Unfiltered Network. And certainly anything that you want to give to us personally, you can certainly hit us up with our own personal individual Cash Apps that are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So, certainly we appreciate you guys being here tonight. And shout out to our guy, Tom. Haven't seen you in a while, sir. Good to see you. Dallas Cowboys have a petition to get rid of the cancer that's running the team, which is Jerry Jones. We haven't even gotten there yet. It's interesting. We're going to be talking a lot about Dallas today, but unfortunately, certainly for different reasons tonight. But certainly appreciate your time being here tonight as well. But, certainly looking forward to a good and positive show. And so I'm just going to wait for my guy, Shawnee. I know you're in the back there, so I'm just waiting for you to hop back on in here. But sent the link out to everybody, so everybody hopefully should be popping up shortly. But we're going to give him the time before he gets back. But again, hope everyone is certainly enjoying certainly everything that's going on. I see the coach just hopped up into the building tonight. Hey, coach, I thought you were supposed to be working a game tonight, sir. What's going on?
Yeah, man, our game started at 5 o'clock. We only had a sixth grade game, and the results came out like I expected based off the way they practice. So, which is scattered brains all over the place, not running plays, not even in position, arguing with each other. Same thing they do in practice. But they'll figure it out. I told them, I'll figure it out. Fifth grade, I think they're going to be a lot better because they listen, they run, they do, basketball. So we'll see tomorrow. But
I heard that. Well, certainly we don't want to certainly delay the show anymore. Let's get into it. So as we've been doing, certainly throughout the course of the NFL season so far, we like to take the high level view. So again, after week 10. These is the current standings in the NFL, and it definitely seems like the cream is definitely rising to the top in regards to some of these teams. I mean, the surprise teams, obviously New England. I didn't see that coming. So I mean, you already got their coach. He's got to be a coach of the year candidate so far, especially if he can get them not only to the. I mean, if he gets them to the playoffs, I think he's coach of the year. But I don't think anybody was expecting this turnaround for a first year coach. So. Shout out to, what New England's doing there. Indianapolis, they certainly rebounded from the loss to the Steelers last week. But I don't trust those overseas games. I think you're just in a different element. It's almost like a 50-50 when you go over there and play those different teams. We'll see once they start getting into the thick of, playing other teams. If they got some teams on the West schedule, like we talked about that a couple weeks ago, how their schedule gets really difficult on the second half of the season. Plus, a lot of those games were at home in those that first half of the season. So we got those guys, but it's certainly NFC East. The Eagles, again, they're certainly separating themselves from the competition. But again, another interesting race. Tampa Bay, it looked like they were looking to run away with it, but Carolina's been hanging tough there. Certainly that's another surprise team of the season. The biggest competition, though, is certainly the NFC North. And again, shout out to Chicago Bears. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Our guy Hink, who basically ran his Bears under the bus, ran Caleb Williams under the bus. And, so I'd be interested to see what he's got to say about his Bears in what they're doing now. And it's like you got a dogfight also in the West. Seattle, I think, is in LA, certainly in the class of that division. I think Seattle's looking very good right now. I think they're certainly on balance. They're playing very well, and I would probably pick them to win that division so far. But certainly things are melded together. Probably the most disappointing division is my AFC North. My Steelers are barely hanging on. They've lost 3 out of 4. We're going to talk about that. What's going on with my Steelers, unfortunately, as a topic a little bit later. But they're barely hanging on. Baltimore, they're making their charge. Lamar's back, and so again, but hopefully the grace would be that we play the Cincinnati. So hopefully we can avenge the loss that we had a couple of weeks ago in Cincinnati. We play them at home. So hopefully I can certainly get things, stabilized a little bit. But certainly, just a high level view is such where, these things seem to be playing out. But what do you see just from the high level view? What's sticking out? For you just based on this overview of what's going on in the league right now?
All right, just real quick, just before we get into that, you said something in reference to New England, right? And their first year coach, which this is his first year with the team.
Right.
And we've seen this happen just recently. Remember, Dan Quinn was his first year with Washington last year, and he led them to the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. So the coaches, with himself and Dan Quinn, they've been around a long time. Even players, a lot of them and I guess on the NFL level, you don't see a lot of players that transition into coaches at the NFL level. But for the most part, a lot of those players that transition into coaching, fairly have some success because they sort of understand the whole dynamic of playing and coaching. So, but the surprise is definitely New England. Buffalo, they do this every year. Again, football's changing. The weather's changing. I'm definitely surprised about Indianapolis. Everybody, Mac, who was at Daniel Jones, they was basically writing him off. But there's still a lot of football, and that's going to be a tough division as it comes down the stretch. Even with the AFC North, everything is still so wide open. Everything is still so wide open. Pittsburgh, I'm surprised, how their offense is struggling. But I hope they figure it out. I think trading George Pickens was a big mistake to me because we see what he's doing in Dallas. Denver, I'm not surprised by Sean Payton team. And with Kansas City, LA, I think that's going to come down to the wire. Even with Kansas City, they may lose 2 more games, but I think with LA and Denver and Kansas City, that's going to come down to the wire. Philadelphia, we about to see our first time repeat NFC East champion in 30 years almost. I'm surprised at Dallas, but at the same time, I'm not. You lose a big part of your defense. They lost DeMarcus Lawrence a few years ago. Then you lose in a big part of your defense, then it's going to always show. And nobody has really stepped up for Dallas. With Washington, we know what with Jalen. Like I said, Dabo's the weak coach. He's the worst coach in the NFL. Finally, they let him go. So
yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit later on too. Yeah,
Tampa Bay. I'm not surprised. They always strong. I think they have a chance to win out. Atlanta, I'm surprised at them. I thought this would have been a year for they at least be 500 or have a winning season because of the weapons they got. Detroit, not surprised. You still NFC East. I guess what they went to the championship out of Super Bowl. I'm not even sure, but you go. Chicago, definitely a surprise. Green Bay, it's something about Green Bay that they're missing. It's like they don't have enough toughness to me. But Green Bay is still, in the driver's seat. Even that whole NFC North is still wide open. Seattle, I think Sam Darnold has found his rhythm, and Seattle's going to be tough because their defense is pretty good and their offense is well balanced. They don't have any really big names outside of Sam Darnold. And we saw how his career has sort of evolved to this. It didn't start out strong. Rams, they always tough with Matt. Long as Matt Stafford is healthy, they always got a chance. San Francisco, again, a soft team. They look good on paper. McCaffrey might get you a couple of passes, but they're still too soft, and it shows.
Well, now it's too
Arizona,
soft, injured now because they got a lot of injuries.
yeah, that's why they're soft, because they always got injuries with the key players every year, 5 and 6, 7 games. So that ain't, I'm sure they are injured, but it seems like it's just redundant as we start out saying they could be one of the best. Then everybody's injured. Arizona, I think Kyler Murray's on his last leg. That'd be a good place for Shador. I'm going to be a Shador fan forever. Good place for him to go on out there, get him a spot.
Anywhere
or Cleveland. Or hopefully Cleveland give him at least 6 starts. They give him 6 starts. He going to win 3 of them. He going to be good.
I don't know. Cleveland has had a good quarterback since Bernie Kosar, so I'm not sure if that's the place where any quarterback goes to succeed. Is in Cleveland, any quarterback for the past 30 years. But shout out to Shawnee. How you doing tonight, sir?
Man, everything is good, man. My bad. I had mic headphone issues. It just wouldn't be recognized by the PC or the StreamYard. But we.
I heard that. Well, when in doubt, always reboot. The nuclear option, so to speak. But yeah, your thoughts so far on after week 10, just trends that you're seeing. We're going to get into some details on key games and highlights, but just your overall view, just looking at this map here, where you see things trending, and so yeah, just your overall impression.
On the NFC side, I believe all the teams that are in first place are legit. Seattle, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Philly. I believe they are the best 4 teams on that side of the ball. I think Green Bay is just too iffy. Jordan Love and just others. Really, Jordan Love. You really just don't know which Jordan Love was going to come out and perform that particular week. Baker Mayfield has been steady. Even, Ibuka, he's been back, but he also missed some other weapons. Of course, Evans is gone. I don't know when he's coming back, but he was gone for like 3 games. First game back, hurt himself again. Now he's gone again. Seattle's legit. Darnold is just playing some awesome football right now. I can't knock that. The Rams, which is week 11, we're going into week 11. That's already going to be the game of the week right there. Rams versus Seahawks. They play each other. I think they play each other. I want to say they play each other in LA. I forgot, but that's going to be the game of the week right there. Now, going on to the AFC side, Colts and the Pats, they legit. I believe I heard on the radio earlier today about the Patriots' remaining record. I think the Patriots have a strong chance of finishing at least 13-4 because they have about 3 or 4 more games in the AFC East. And I think they could beat all 3 teams in that AFC East. And then I think it's based on like the other teams, like the the Colts. Denver definitely has a hard because they still got several games. I think they still have 2 games versus the Chiefs and the Chargers remaining. I think with Indy, they still have 2 games versus Houston. And I think if anything, I know the Houston's offense, even though they had a comeback win, that offense is just no. But that defense, it's legit. And I think normally those 2 teams, when they play each other, they'd be some extremely close games. Usually win by a field goal or so. So I believe Indianapolis probably lose one of those games. So I think the Patriots may ultimately have a strong chance of being the number 1 seed in the AFC this year. Now, going over to the AFC North, I played this. I brought it up last week because now, remember, Baltimore defense was down up the Cowboys early in the season. I think they was giving up like 30 points a game, something like that. But they have since found a footing back, and I think that 30 points over the past couple of weeks, changed like 13 or 14 points. They're getting their footing back on defense. Plus, they started off 1-5. So as you see, they won 3 in a row. Plus, they have a Lamar back. And I believe that the Steelers are going to mess around and not even make the playoff because it's 7 teams per conference, right?
Yeah.
So I have Baltimore winning that division. Then I have
you only got one coming out of there. So
so you got the New England, Buffalo. So those are 3 teams right there. Indiana's 4, and potentially 3 teams coming out the West. Potentially. I don't know, but like I say, Denver still they possibly could beat each other up because the Chiefs they're gonna have a hard time. But even Houston or Jacksonville could still sneak in there. I have a feeling the Steelers they won't sneak in, and I would say this is probably one of the biggest collapse because everything was pointed for the Steelers to take this division. I mean, you have one team trade away their starting quarterback and give the opportunity to 2 rookies. Right now, 1 rookie. The other team lost their quarterback for pretty much the season. I think Burrow may be back for the end of the season, but if they're not contending for anything, I don't see no reason to put them back on the field for this year. Baltimore, like I mentioned, they started off 1-5 mainly due to Lamar's injury, and Pittsburgh was just lollygagging. And if Baltimore, which I strongly believe, they gonna find a stride and win this division. And then everybody loves to point out Tomlin's plus 500 record, and he never had a losing season. I don't care if this dude go 9-8 this year. If he misses the playoffs this season after the jump start that his team had, it's gonna be all type of noise there. It's gonna be, if that was any other head coach, man, there'll be people saying, "Hey, it's time to make a change at the head coach position." That would be an ultimate collapse based on the three obstacles that all the teams in your division have to go through.
No question. We're going to talk about that certainly in the upcoming segments. Just kind of give a view again that playoff picture that Shawnee was talking about. So right now, the number 1 seed sits still, which is surprising. Certainly the Colts and the Eagles. I think the Eagles are certainly in the strongest position to lock up a number 1. But again, I don't have any faith in the Colts. I think they're going to probably go 3-4 down the stretch. So I don't see them coming out of it. I think their schedule, there was a relatively soft schedule the first half of the season. I think they're really going to get into the thick of it, certainly coming up. And as I said, as you just said, I think the only thing that's holding the Steelers up is that they're still up in the division, but you're only going to have one team that's going to come out of that. So definitely, it's an uphill battle for those squads. But I wanted to kind of get into just some of the highlights of some of these games. If I can find where did my clicker go? There we go. So again, you see that the Eagles again squeaked it out. I mean, you're talking about the inconsistency of Jordan Love, but you guys, I haven't, but I know you, Shawnee, and Dante, you guys have been complaining about the inconsistent play of Hurts at QB. This was basically a coin flip game. It came down to a kick at the end to possibly tie it up. The Eagles are still, their record is their record 7-2, but again, you still have the chattering by AJ Brown. So if you got fantasy, get rid of me. So again, should the Eagles have made a deal at the trading deadline? Do you still think it's they should have hung on to him, or is he going to be a problem going down the stretch? As they make seemingly they're I think they're locked to lock up the division, but are they going to be strong enough to overcome him? And could that be a problematic come playoff time? Which it seems like that's they're turning towards that direction. Start with the coach and then go to Shawnee.
Man, if he's still making comments like this, right? Right now he just needs to be quiet. This is the age. It's unfortunate about this age of social media and overthinking the process. He's still a hell of a receiver, and again, they may not start out strong with him, getting passes, but his skill set will be needed as the season continues. They're coming off a Super Bowl win. And yes, but to me, he's just starting to look like, and what's his name? He got arrested over in Dubai. What's his name?
Antonio Brown. Yeah, is
Antonio.
AJ Brown.
He's just starting to take on that type of personality, and it's really not good right now. I think keeping him doesn't hurt them as a team. But again, as the season wears on, they're going to need him. So right now, he just needs to focus on football. Because and I say this, games like this is the way football is really supposed to be played. A 10-3, 10-7 game. Yes, it was a close game, and the better team squeaked it out at the end. This is the NFL. I know people like to see 35, 36, but that's the soft league. This is the type of game that shows, even with the struggles of our team as people perceive it, because they still one of the best records in the league. If you can win a close game, that says a lot about your team, especially in a way close game. That says a lot about your team. So,
just FYI, AJ Brown, 2 receptions for 13 yards last game.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right.
No
Take his little money.
Take
your money and just play the game, bro. You'll be all right in the end. Don't be complaining because one of the buyers pick him up. So,
Shawnee, your take.
Well, I shared a video in the chat of former receiver James Jones, his comments about AJ Brown. He was basically stating that AJ Brown, because AJ Brown has his rings, he recently got his money, and he was like, he was on the path of becoming a potential Hall of Fame receiver. I mean, he has the skill sets to do that, but now that he, not like he was in the Hall of Fame, but he was on the path to get there. If he just his utilization was stay, high, and now his quarterback now is basically costing him, like those opportunities, or he's just not being used as he, like you say, what you say, 2 receptions for 13 yards?
Yeah.
He's just not being used, and this has been the whole struggle all season. I don't know why the Eagles can't use a weapon like him, but clearly, I guess this is more from a standpoint of personal stats, and you can't really knock him for being, he's an impactful player who knows he's an impactful player. So you paid him his money, so let's, let him earn his money per se. He wants to make that impact, and when you just, for whatever reason, just don't use him, he's just basically out there getting cardio, he's going to get frustrated. Now, I understand what Coach saying, because basically, you talking after, y'all winning. You you winning this season. You just come off a season where you just won a championship, and you still winning. Now, is it as glamorous as it was last year? No. Passing game nor running game. It's just sometimes I think Saquon he broke one. I think it was a week before. He finally broke one during the season, but it's just they basically just winning right now. Like that game versus the Packers, man, that was strictly if you love defense. Strictly if you love defense, man. There was just no offense in sight. So usually a receiver, because they want to get paid too, but he got paid. He already has his money. It's a recent contract. So now he wants to show up for his team. He's an incredible weapon, but for whatever reason, his quarterback, I don't know if it's on Hurts or just the offense. I don't know. Because it definitely wasn't Kellen Moore's issue when he was there. None of us had a way to give A to the ball.
Shawnee, let's be real. It's all coaching decisions, man. It's not nothing to do with the quarterback. They have coaches meetings. They have quarterback meetings. They know who to pass it to on what down. They know exactly what they're doing because A.J. Brown doesn't always have to get a pass. He can get an end around. You know what I'm saying? They can use him like a Debo Samuel, but those are play call. It has nothing to do with Jalen. Jalen wants his job too, so he got to go to Devontae. He has to.
And you also have to You also have to look at what's left for him to do, because some of these things are he's already checked off boxes already. Like if you look at these guys here, I was going to talk about this later in the show, but you might as well play it now. So you got guys, greatest players in history without a ring. So again, he's got his ring. As Shawnee said, he has his money. So what else is there to look forward to except, these guys here, who all of these guys are Hall of Fame, probably first ballot Hall of Famers. And again, he might have been on that path for a time. And again, I'm not saying, as far as the importance of the player, the money's important. But again, a lot of that money comes from the stats that you have up, and then you want to win a championship. So, he's got, as I said, a couple of those boxes already checked off. The last thing is this, and where would you rather be? Would you rather be like these guys who never, certainly they might have got to a Super Bowl, but certainly didn't win one? I know Moss and Marino, they got there, didn't win one. Fitzgerald got there, didn't win one. Or do you want to be, where he is? So I think this is something that, for him, I can certainly understand the frustration in that now it's about his legacy and about being considered one of the greats with the Randy Mosses and the Gonzaleses and the Fitzgeralds. He's not going to have that opportunity now. So, so again, I can understand his frustration with the situation, but still the question is, again, is this good for the Eagles that you still have this disgruntled player that's on your team? And again, you're one of the best in the league, but you're only getting 2 targets. Certain teams, you make players for your playmakers, and if that's not being done, and again, they could have lost that game against Green Bay, where certainly if things bounced the other way, and imagine if they did lose that game. So you get a loss, and you only got 2 targets. Then what would he be saying at that?
Well, point? I put with Brown, he had 3 total targets that game. He had the first 2 in the first quarter, and then he didn't see number 3 to the fourth. And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Bennett, but A.J. Brown is a weapon. Now, I understand this is like early in the season, and which he was. He was frustrated early in the season as well because he felt like he wasn't being utilized as well.
And they did go on that slide. I think they lost back-to-back games, I think,
back-to-back games. But really, it's just that the offense. They were still winning games, but the offense has been down. Before they had that 300-plus yarder game Hurts had like 3 weeks ago, something like that. But with A.J. Brown, because at the beginning of the NFL, you're like, hey, man, you still winning. Just wait. Maybe the offense will get clicking. Pretty much by this point of the season, we are officially halfway through the season, and pretty much what you see on film regarding these teams is what it is. If they had a good offense, you will see it, and if you see it through this half point of the season, you're like, okay, like the Colts. The Colts have a damn good run game. We know that. We know Jonathan Taylor can almost bust you for 150 any game. We know that about the Colts, but we can't say that about the Eagles. Right now, the Eagles' offense sucks. It basically is. They may have a shining moment every so often one week, but right now, with the weapons they have, that offense sucks. It's greatly performing under par. So A.J. Brown, he knows, and he's an elite receiver in this league. And it's not like he was like the Texans back in the day where Andre Johnson was having different quarterbacks after Matt Schaub, or that last season that Matt Schaub had, but quarterback after quarterback throwing him the ball, so he wasn't getting his stats he could have. He had another all-pro quarterback throwing him the ball. He has I don't know if Jalen Hurts made any all-pros, but he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. And there was at times he was getting good stats. But now he's like almost been completely erased from the offense. And he's like, man, come on, man. It's like you can make a difference. Now you make a difference. You can be a game changer, which he is. and your respective team just pretty much just wipe you off the offense. As good as Devontae Smith is, he is not A.J. Brown. So I can understand his frustration because now we are still talking about it and we still see it halfway through the season. And I just can't see. They may go next week and he may have a good game, but the way the season goes, the very next game, it may be right back to how it was the previous 4 or 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. When you just that good of a player and you know you're a game changer and you just not being used,
yeah.
I mean, forget not being used. You might as well stay on the bench. 3 targets. I mean, it's just like your frustration going to build because he's an alpha player.
No doubt. Moving on, certainly, let's talk about these Bears. So again, you look at the performances from last year. The offense has certainly improved greatly, going up 8 points to being 6th in the NFL when you were tied for 28th last year. So again, first year coach certainly has turned this team around. They got the momentum, and the question has to be asked: can they win the North? Because I know everyone talk about the Bears. I mean, about the Lions, and obviously, we just talked about Green Bay with their struggles. Can the Bears be the surprise team, and can they catch some of these guys? They're tied in division for first with the Lions right now. And where do you see is the ceiling for the Bears? And I just see the momentum again. Caleb may not have great statistical numbers every week, but again, the offense is much improved over last year. The defense is playing better. They're finding ways to win. Yes, even though against the Giants at 2-8, and we're going to talk about Dayball and the Giants, but again, where do you guys see? Start with Shawnee. What do you see the upper limit for the Bears, and do you think they can potentially take the North?
I call it it's easy. It's the Ben Johnson effect. I mean, it legitimizes how good of a head coach that many believe that Ben Johnson can be when he left Detroit. His main thing is offense, and as you can see, he greatly improved the offense in his first season.
Mm.
I can imagine how if he was there last season, these little hurdles that you see Caleb, improving as the season goes, he probably wouldn't went through that last year, and this season he probably would have been a whole lot better quarterback because this would have been his second year under Johnson. But you can see it's just everything is improving with him. I mean the stats right there just don't lie. They averaging almost 100 more yards a game and over
8 points. Which is basically a touchdown.
Yeah.
Touchdown with a 2-point conversion. I mean, they're and
they have roughly the same weapons. It's not like they got a whole new squad. No, they got roughly the same team on offense. So yeah, it's the Ben Johnson effect. Now because they're in that NFC East, I still have the Lions winning that. But like I mentioned earlier about the Packers, I think the Packers are potentially a more talented team, but Jordan Love right now he's just too iffy. And the thing about what the Bears are doing, they are winning close games, or they're catching breaks in games that will lead them to victories, and that's usually a sign of a team that's turning it around. Because we've seen if you're a bad team, like the Giants. They're a bad team, but they'll find a way to lose a game. It's just if you're a bad team, you find like you saw the Bengals. They're a bad team, and the way the Bears beat them the previous week, it just reinforced you a bad team. You can't tackle because the Bears had no reason winning that game. But because they keep fighting until the clock says 0, they give themselves an ability to win. So it's definitely the Ben Johnson effect. And yeah, I think next season, you will see a better Caleb Williams into his second season under Ben Johnson. Because you're seeing him right now, he's improving. It's not like he shot up a rocket to improve, but you just want your young quarterback to improve. You want him to play his best football at the end of the season at the beginning. And that's exactly what Caleb Williams is doing right now.
Gotcha. Coach?
Man, it's just simple football. You got an offensive-minded coach. And a lot of defensive-minded coaches can't fuel a quarterback. They can't do it. They don't understand. You see the difference between the Jets. If Ben Johnson would have been to the Jets, we see a different Jets team. But Caleb Williams, they have the talent, but it takes a coach, especially with a particular plays. You got to run, certain plays to get him a good rhythm, a good flow. He's not, making difficult passes his first couple of passes. And they run in a balanced attack. You have to run a balanced attack in the NFL. I don't care what the passing game looks like. You have to be able to run the ball. And Ben Johnson, he does that. Offensive-minded quarterbacks do a good job with the offense. You can see it with every offensive-minded quarterback. Those offenses are going to put up points. They're going to do it. And then, but, I don't know, man. I believe Chicago can win the division. They only can go up at this point. Detroit, losing 2 coaches, it may come back to haunt them. Right now, Detroit is running good football. They got two dynamic running backs that could break away, and the defense is just good enough. But, who knows with this part of football coming now? Second half of the season is really interesting because you're seeing teams who no one expected to be really good play really good football. And once that gets contagious, it spreads throughout the whole team. You don't see them fall off. So I'm going to be interested to see. I think right now it's still wide open. There's no clear-cut favorite that you could say is going to come out of any division at this point.
Gotcha.
So,
and again, shout out to our guy Hink, who again ran his Bears and Caleb Williams under the bus. He abandoned his team weeks ago, but I'm sure he's singing praises now. But check out Hink on Hink in the Basement and whatnot, and all the best to your Bears the rest of the season. Let's move back over to the AFC. So again, we're seeing I think Shawnee, you asked the question. You talked about this earlier. Again, Pats right now playing tremendous football. They beat again Tampa Bay, even with the injuries. Still, that's certainly a very a good win for them. Denver, they're finding ways to win every week. So that big come from behind win against the Giants, and even though they played the Raiders, but again they're right there. That defense keeps them in every game, and like I said, the coaching is certainly top notch. So again, this is any more thoughts, Coach? I don't know if you got a chance to talk about what's your thoughts on the Patriots and the Broncos, because I think on balance they may be 2 of the more balanced teams in the AFC at this point. And like I said, I have no faith in the Colts. I don't. I think they lose 3 out of 7, go 3-4 down the stretch. So it's really may come down to these. I mean, Buffalo had a bad loss. That was an awful loss to Miami last week, and so they're not always consistent every week, especially coming off the big win against the Kansas City. So again, no one, especially the way they lost. So again, your thoughts on can the Pats get the number 1 seed, and your thoughts on Denver to win the West and possibly compete with New England to get that number 1 seed.
Right now, and I'll say the same thing, man. It's wide open. You got a Super Bowl winning head coach that played Super Bowl winning football in New England, so I can see where they are. Sean Payton, we knew who he was when he left the game at the first time. He's going to be a coach that gets his team to play, and he's an offensive-minded coach. And he's taking a young team. Both coaches have taken young teams. I believe Stephon Diggs probably one of the oldest guys on the team for New England, but they're taking young guys who are hungry. And when you put a good coach that sort of at least can, I don't know if it's just motivation, but you see how players play for those type of coaches, then it's just a winning combination all the way. I do have faith in the Colts. They have one of the best running games and the best running backs in the league. As long as he stays healthy, that allows Daniel Jones and the Colts to run a balanced attack. Because Jonathan Taylor, he's one handoff away from breaking it. And we've seen he was one of the best before he got injured. Now he's back to that form, and their defense is playing well. So the ALC is still wide open. We don't know. Pittsburgh can go on a 5-game win streak. We don't know right now. So,
and it's the thing that frustrates about the Steelers. We're going to talk about them next. I mean, again, they shut him down last week.
Yeah,
and then he busted for 244 the next week. So I don't know. Shawnee, any thoughts on again between the Broncos and New England, who's most likely, in your opinion, to come out as number 1 seed in the AFC?
Well, I believe it's going to be the Patriots who will ultimately take the number 1 seed, and strictly because it's the teams they have left. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule right now. The next 3 is versus the Jets, Bengals, and Giants. And then you have Buffalo, but it's going to be at New England. So I think they are well capable of winning that game. I believe they beat Buffalo. Yeah, they beat Buffalo at Buffalo the first time they played. So I take them the next 4. The game that's going to wait for them is Week 16. They're going to be playing at Baltimore. And I believe by that time, Baltimore is going to be hitting on their cylinders because they got their team back. I take Baltimore in that one. So I'm looking at the Patriots going, and then after that, again, it's the Jets and the Dolphins. So I'm potentially looking at the Patriots going 6-1 at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And if they continue to play the way they've been playing. So I'm looking at the Broncos schedule. This includes KC twice, the Chargers, and even Green Bay. So just on the scheduling, I think the Patriots just have I don't want to say easier because you can't say that in the NFL. I mean, people didn't think the Panthers would go into Green Bay and beat Green Bay, and then you just saw the Dolphins pretty much dominated the Bills. I think that was a wire-to-wire win for them. So you can't say easy victories in the NFL, but just based on the teams and their current situations, you already know about the Jets. The Giants just had their head coach fired. You don't even know what's the status of the young QB because he got this concussion protocol. So it's just, I just think the Patriots and they playing very good ball. That was a good game versus the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
but if and maybe it's versus Buccaneers, but they have a weapon in Henderson. I think I just read that Stevenson is going to be out another game, Rashawn Stevenson. So, okay, put in Travion Henderson. I mean, the way he go, I mean, it probably ain't going to skip a beat.
Yeah.
I wanted the Steelers to draft him coming out from last year from that Ohio State. It just goes to show how the Titans look like right now. I go back to them. Why did you leave you push Mike Vrabel out the door? And in an instant, because we already know how the Patriots looked like last year with what was the coach name? Who's the former player? I forgot his name. But they did not look like anything like this. That's why they let him go after 1 year. But when Vrabel came and his first season, I think he has a great chance of being coach of the year. I think it's between him and Mike McDaniel up there, McDonald.
Gerard Mayo was the guy.
Yeah, Gerard Mayo. Yeah, 1 year he was gone. I guess he was just over his head. Yeah. I don't even know if he's on.
Well, that was yeah. I don't think it was necessarily he did a bad job when he was there. I just think that the owner saw Vrabel. He wanted Vrabel, and he was like, "I'm willing to tear this up." Even though it wasn't fair to him, and again, surprised he didn't get another job somewhere. Yeah, you can't argue with the move for sure. Shout out to Anton for the $2 super chat. Again, don't be surprised if the Broncos don't get the number 1 seed. I know they got Kansas City coming up, but then they got a bye. But then they got the Raiders, and they got Washington. So they're gonna have a couple easy ones before it gets a little
think about the Broncos
tense towards the end of the season.
Their offense is stagnant. They offense just, like I say, I believe my Texans should have beat them if we had any sort of an offense.
Here we go.
It's just they skimming by. through the
Yeah,
skin of
but
their teeth.
sometimes, look, and that's some people call that football character. Win the close ones and whatnot, to come from behind against the Giants.
Yeah, but when
So
you play
again,
a
they
team with
believe
offense,
they believe. So, but let's talk about some of the MVP race so far. So again, you can't, certainly Drake May is certainly in the conversation. Obviously, your guy Jonathan Taylor, who again, but we know how hard it is when guys don't get for running backs to get MVPs. I think it might have been Adrian Peterson might have got the last one, but certainly he's putting up MVP caliber numbers. But I mean, Sam Darnold, and again, this is back-to-back teams that he's performing well on. I mean, because everyone was saying, okay, well, was it the offense in Minnesota that he was able to put up the numbers that he did? But he's putting in that division. I think the Seahawks are probably the best team in that division, and they're going to make some noise towards the end of the year. I think Josh Allen, I think that loss last week was, definitely I think dropped his stock quite a bit. And so, and then again, Stafford is doing well. So again, just off the rip, do you still think Jonathan Taylor is the favorite to get MVP, or do we have to take a look at these QBs in their play? We'll start with Coach. Coach, why don't you get on this and who you think is leading the MVP race at this point, and then we'll go to Shawnee.
I would say right now it'd be Sam Darnold as a close number one and Jonathan Taylor right behind. We know what Matthew Stafford can do. But again, this part of the season, I would definitely go with Sam Darnold because one, switching teams like he did, and now they're winning and leading the division is rare. It's rare in most cases. And the fact that he's done that and everyone else has been with their respective teams from last year, I would say Sam Darnold, but I would have Jonathan Taylor second. If I was just going to have a list, maybe Matthew Stafford just because of his age and the way he's leading with injuries that they have. And then I would hit I would still go with Josh Allen and Drake May, still in that sense. But right now it would be Sam Darnold with Taylor closely.
Gotcha. Shawnee?
I think May and Stafford can swap. Josh Allen, no. I think he's gonna be bumped out the top five. Just that was an ugly loss versus the Dolphins. Jonathan Taylor, no. As great as a season he's having this season, he didn't have a great. His season still don't compare to Saquon last year, and Saquon didn't win it. It's an unofficial quarterback award. It's just is what it is. He may win the Offensive Player of the Year, but they're not gonna give the MVP to him. It's not a record-breaking season as it was with Saquon. I mean, Saquon took himself out the game twice, which he could have won both the NFL. He could have broke the NFL record in a season game and in a single season, but he took himself out, and so they didn't give it to him. So I already officially it's a quarterback award. Sam Darnold, I put Sam Darnold over Josh Allen. I just believe Josh Allen's name is up there because he's a familiar name. A lot of people don't really want to look at Drake May, hell, even Stafford and Sam Darnold, because they can't. When you say Sam Darnold, they always want to think of the old Sam Darnold. They can't look at the now and the way he's playing now. And the proof is Sam Darnold lighting everybody up. I mean, I still remember how he did Washington. That dude put up probably one of the greatest quarterback performances in one half I've ever seen. Perfect completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, almost 300 yards in one half.
Mm.
So I'm like, but they don't think of Sam Darnold, the one who played for the Jets, the journeyman. They can't get that out of their head instead of just judging how. Drake May, we just talked about him and Gerard Mayo. He wasn't nowhere like this. People thought, man, we probably have to find another quarterback up in the Northeast. And then all of a sudden, here comes Vrabel, and now Drake May leading his team to a potential number one record seed in the AFC. Stafford is just Stafford. Stafford is efficient, and Stafford is getting touchdowns. Now, Stafford by far has the better weapons than all three of the other quarterbacks in this top five. But Stafford, I mean, he's getting boys with short like short yardage touchdowns with his passing, and he will throw it over top of your head. And he's just Stafford, and he's just finally, I believe, getting just. I feel like Matt Stafford has always been in the shadow behind other quarterbacks in the NFL because he's never been on an All Pro.
Yeah.
And but now he's getting that light, even though he didn't play a lick in the preseason because he kept talking about his back. But yeah, Drake May and Sam Darnold, they just lighten it up. And so like I say, Josh Allen, yeah, I'll put Daniel Jones up there before Josh Allen because Josh Allen hasn't really been lighting it up this year. He's just a familiar name that when they do lists like that, they can't put in Mahomes because his record. They can't put in Lamar Jackson because he's been injured for the past several weeks, and he's just not coming back. Josh Allen, the only one who's been playing since the beginning of the season. He's the popular quarterback, the defending MVP, so they got to put him in there. But right now, he is not playing on the level of Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, or Drake May, Matt Stafford. So,
well, speaking of Stafford, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So I mean, those are. That's
lighting boys up. Lighting boys up.
Yeah. Shout out to our guy Anton thank you again for the $10 super chat. Gerard Mayo got a raw deal from the Patriots. He was a token hire. Just a New England wouldn't have gotten in trouble for violating the Rooney Rule. Hashtag gotta love the double standard. Yeah, I mean, you got a raw deal, and again, he didn't certainly get another coaching opportunity. So so certainly. But again, the results are the results. What they are. As outrageous people were at the time. Certainly you can't argue with the results now. They seem to find their guy. And again, the former Patriot as well. So unfortunately, sad set of circumstances for Mayo. But again, I hope he gets a job in the future. Who knows? He may even get it with the Steelers. Who knows? But just wanted to bring up this last one. I was trying to bring it up earlier as far as just exceeding, again, this the turnaround of some of these teams. Again, as we talked about to lead the show with, I mean, the Panthers, the Bears, Jacksonville, New England. I mean, certainly, just goes to show, some of this goes to, the coaching hires that was there. But I think probably the one that gets me more is San Francisco because they kind of were who they were. But the fact they've been able to win without Purdy for the most part, that probably is the biggest surprise to me, how they've still been able to be relevant, even though they just lost last week, but how they're still able to stay relevant, just given all the injuries and whatnot that's come up to them. But, again, shout out to these guys, for certainly being able to turn their seasons around. As far as now, the question for you, Shawnee, is, I think the next one deals with, I want to say we'll get there. Let me bring this guy up. Bring up this. Might as well go here. So again, obviously we had the big turnaround, and I didn't know where to put this guy here, but I decided it's been a while since I gave for Shawnee and Dante some love because we all know how much they just love and adore Lamar Jackson, and they love just bombing me with the stats. So I found this one here, 25-3 against NFC opponents. So I figured that just add that to the Lamar Jackson war chest as far as accomplishments and achievements, why he's one of the best in the league. So I was trying to put, where can I put this, that makes sense. I just put it here. But we did want to talk about this game. Again, Houston coming back, again, basically saved their season. I mean, they were really, tanking there. But again, just like the Denver did a few weeks ago against the Giants, again, another team that has a late fourth quarter lead, and they just can't hold on to it and wind up losing. So again, it's Cinderella. I know what they talk about Jacksonville being one of the surprise teams this year, but as Cinderella is the ball ending for Jacksonville. Are they starting to skid from where they were, and will they tail off? And do you think, Shawnee, I'll start with you. Do you still think Houston has a chance to make the playoffs?
I think Jacksonville is starting to skid off. I think the main reason they were in the position they were in because of Houston's shaky offense. I think if Houston had a better performing offense, Houston probably would have had no more than 3 losses right now. Because Houston, I can't remember all the games. I think they was in all their games. They just lost them because even against the Rams, the first game, they just lost because their offense just never showed up. But their defense, man, they could have beaten Seattle. They could have beaten the Rams. They could have beaten Broncos. I think they could have been at least 7-3 right now. And because they're not, Jacksonville just, taking advantage of it. But was surprised how well. I wasn't surprised that the Texans came back on the Jaguars because of their history. They tend to have games like this where they kind of go back and forth. Now I'm more surprised because the Texans offense started that game off terribly, and they kept putting the defense in bad situations. I believe the Texans, fumbled the ball. I know they fumbled the ball on a kickoff return and just put the defense in short field. That's how Jacksonville was able to get like 14 points because they was like already within the 30-yard line, having to play defense. But then I'm more surprised at how, with a backup quarterback, they were able to come back like that. Usually, the AFC South games, when they play each other, they wacky. I mean, especially when Houston play any of the teams, Tennessee, Indy, or Jacksonville, they just be wacky games. But yeah, I believe Jacksonville is on the slide. Will Houston make the playoffs? They have a small chance, but I think it's mainly because the inconsistency. If we go back to what we was talking about at the beginning of the show, we have like 3, maybe 4 teams at the top of the AFC that we can see y'all going to the playoffs. Patriots, Colts, Broncos, and that's on the NFC.
Yeah.
Broncos and I say Chargers.
Gotcha.
But those other 3 spots, they anybody's game in the AFC. I think they all separated within 1 game of each other. So I believe that's what gives Houston a chance to make the playoffs. They can just get one of them 3 spots, even if they get the 7th seed. Jacksonville, I think they're gonna be knocked out by the time the season's over with. They just, for whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence, he's just. Cause remember when he had that 4 touchdown lead versus the Chargers in the playoffs, and that allowed the Chargers to come back on him. Was that, or was that the other way around? I think that's the other way around. The Chargers had like a 28-0 lead.
Yeah, they did, and then so
that was a big
yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not surprised how the game went because they games were normally wacky. I'm surprised how bad the offense started and chose at the end of the game to click, and they won the game because the offense on the click. Because that's the best the offense have looked besides the game versus Baltimore. Because at that time, Baltimore defense I think ranked last in the NFL or just above the Cowboys. But yeah, they offense haven't looked like that since that week. I think that was week 3.
Gotcha. Coach, your thoughts on again Jacksonville? Is this the Jacksonville slide? And do you think Houston still has a shot to make the playoffs?
That's why I love football, man. Again, it's a tale of 2 halves. It's still wide open. There's no clear-cut runaway leader and winner of conferences right now. The next 3 games are tale to take. If the first-place teams continue to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, I can see that those teams will clearly be separated. But they could go on a 3-game slide. A couple of teams can go on a 3-game winning streak, 2 or 1. So that's what I like about this part of football, this time of the season, because the best teams will rise to the occasion, and the teams are still having some type of issue with offense or defense. It starts to show. So I'm not. I'm surprised of probably the NFC a few teams that we wouldn't expect to really be playing good football. They're playing good football. So again, we'll see. We'll see over the next 3 games, and I think the best teams will start rising. But yeah, it's still a lot of good football. Yeah, it's too early for me right now. 3 games, next 3 games.
Well,
in.
Coach, I appreciate your optimism because I need your help here. So we want to talk about this. So obviously, Steelers losing 3 out of 4 games, and it hasn't just been the offense. It's been week to week something collapsing and something not happening. The game against Cincinnati, again, we put up like 36 points or something like that. But again, the defense is like they were just non-existent. And then the win against the Colts, again, we shut down Jonathan Taylor, so the defense showed up. And then this past week, again, now the offense, this is probably the first game I would say Aaron Rodgers looked bad in. You know what I'm saying? So now you see the guys are at the gate with their torches. Again, the fire Mike Tomlin chance is loud. Like Shawnee said, if they don't make the playoffs again this year, he's going to basically be, I think, paired with Marvin Lewis. The only thing he does have a Super Bowl win and an appearance, 2 Super Bowl appearances. Marvin Lewis never got there. But again, I think that the air is going out. I think the patience is getting thin there. So it wouldn't surprise me even if he does go 9-8 or 10-7, but they don't make the playoffs, or even if they lose in the first round of the playoffs. Now, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year, right? Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be a bridge. They were going to, they got all these draft picks. They were going to make an aggressive move next year to get one of the top QBs coming out of college next year. That was the plan going in. But then we got to 4-1, and the issue then became that again, we went on this 3 out of 4 game losing streak. And now it's the fire Mike Tomlin again. So again, with Steelers fans, I never know what they want. It's like if you want the team, you say the team's a mediocrity, you need to probably have a bad year, just like Bill Cowher did. Cowher had some 5-win seasons and whatnot to get a better draft pick and win. But they're always kind of in the mix every year. They don't want to lose. But when when they win and they don't get what they want, then they go off there as well. So they've been getting it all sides. Now again, they got the rematch with Cincinnati this week, and again, a major important game. If they can beat them, they'll give it a little bit of breathing room because there'll be another AFC North opponent that they beat and keep some distance between them and Baltimore until those games come up. They're going to need every advantage that they're going to get. But it's definitely becoming loud, which is why I basically turned off any Yinzer radio or YouTube channels or whatever. I'm not even paying attention at this point. I'm just looking forward to the game on Sunday. But yeah, there is they said the Ravens are just circling again, wanting both of these guys to kind of get off the stage. They were loving Aaron Rodgers 3 weeks ago. That love is getting short as well. So that's kind of where the Steelers are at this point. So the question is, does Tomlin survive this season? I don't have any doubts that he may land another job, especially if the Giants, they're going to need a coach. So certainly him going to the Giants, I've already heard that kind of early buzz that could be a landing spot for him. But your thoughts on the Steelers, where they're at now, and could this be, if they don't make the playoffs, could this be Tomlin's last season in Pittsburgh? And I know, Coach, you as much as I do, we know the numbers, but again, I listen to these fans every year. And I've been listening to Fire Mike Tomlin for the last 7-8 years, and it's the same thing. But they got to be right at some point. So could this be the year that Tomlin leaves Pittsburgh? Coach, your thoughts?
It's amazing, right? In your statement, you said there was a rebuilding year, right? Wasn't expecting a whole lot, right? Now that the fact is you got a 40-year-old, 41-year-old quarterback, and they still, they in first or second place in their division.
First place.
See what I'm saying? Still in first place. Gets no love. Mike Tomlin gets no love. And yes, they lost a game, but it goes to show that they have an ace quarterback. You put a little pressure on them, it changes the dynamic. Mike Tomlin is a defensive coach. you have to have a balanced attack this part of the season. It has to be that way. You cannot think you're going to rely on a 40-year-old arm because his arm is not as strong as it was 5 years ago. So I think also, and I'll say this and I'll shut up, the worst thing Pittsburgh could do is let him go to another team. I think Tomlin will retire if he's not the coach of Pittsburgh. He'll go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time just based off his win record. Never had to lose a season. That's unheard of. But I still think they got a chance of, at least having a winning record. Now, as far as playoffs, I'm not sure. There's no clear-cut leader of the pack in the AFC right now. But yeah, man, it's going to be the chatter. If it was Dabo, wasn't nobody talking about firing him, and he was one of the weakest coaches in the last 5 years. He ain't had a winning season. So let's cut the noise.
Well, that's why I'm comparing. That's why I'm saying, again, even the guy said Marvin Lewis, he got Cincinnati in the playoffs almost every year, had a winning season almost every year. Again, the only thing that separates him from Tomlin is the Super Bowl, which is important, but that was back in 2008. That's, you got grown kids who don't even remember that anymore. So again, he can't live on that record forever. So I'm just asking, again, is Cinderella going to go run out at some point? So Shawnee, your thoughts, I think you mentioned it earlier, but before you do, just want to shout out Anton again for another $5 super chat. The Steelers look flat against the Chargers. LA were definitely the team that played supercharged. Yeah, but I mean, they were flat. I mean, Rodgers, that, like I said, that's probably the worst game I've seen him play, certainly since he's been there. So I got to see a pattern of it because I thought he played pretty decent up until that point, but that was a bad game, and that's probably the first bad game I've seen. We just have to see, is he going to have another bad game coming up? But nothing was working that day for them. But go ahead, Shawnee.
Yeah, Tomlin said himself, man, the standard is the standard. And the standard for Pittsburgh is titles. That's what their standard, they was. But I think before the Patriots won those titles with Brady, it was them and the Cowboys with the most titles in NFL history. So that's Pittsburgh Steelers football. That's their standard. I think, and I'm looking at Mike Tomlin must be Fire fans. They must be Pittsburgh fans. Pittsburgh fans. Yeah, they have not been satisfied with Tomlin's production. Lack of wins in the playoff and deep playoff runs. I think it's more of the national scope. They just still hang their hat on, he never had a losing record. Okay, but I mean, hell, you go on the Cowboys, they won 12, they had 12-win season, but they can't get to an NFC title game. And folks don't care about them winning games in the regular season. You can't even get to an NFC title game. You haven't won a Super Bowl since 96 or 95. So with Tomlin, when the last time they had a playoff victory, Mr. Bennett, what?
2017.
Yeah. So it's almost
actually 2016.
Yeah.
Because again, 2017 they were number one seed and they lost to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They gave it the defense gave up 52 points in that game.
So you can't even win a playoff game, let alone you can hang your hat on. Okay, I guess you never had lower than a 500 season. I think that's nationally. Nationally, they hold on to that stat. Locally, they frustrated, and rightfully so, because if there was any other NFL team that, especially they had the standard, like the Cowboys, now the Chiefs, or 49ers, if they went through the same stretch of seasons like the Steelers are going through right now, they will get criticized in both local media and national media. But with Pittsburgh, he's criticized more in local media than he is national media because they all praise him because his non-losing record. But that same non-losing record includes no playoff victories in almost a decade. So, and like I mentioned earlier in the season, yeah, you mentioned that Rodgers was basically supposed to be a bridge quarterback this year. But the first five games of the season, they were basically handed like a super head start with the severe obstacles that the other three teams in their division had. And in the way they're playing now, you let one team who at the beginning of the season many people thought they was going to be the division winner, but they even had a hell of an obstacle to get over. They started off 1-5. They wasn't thinking like they probably was, oh man, we this just may not be our year. We don't even know if we'll be able to get to the playoffs. But because the Steelers are a fiddle faddle around, now you done gave the Ravens, now they got new life. And they starting to get healthy and they starting to play better. So they're going to be playing like urgent football for the rest of the season. Because they going, and then, like I mentioned, when the Patriots play them at Week 16, I believe if the Ravens are on an upswing, you're going to be seeing a totally different monster towards the end of the season because they put their foot on the gas since they realized now we got a legit shot on winning our division. And I keep mentioning, I know we talk about Lamar Jackson's playoff record, and you can't, that's not a lie, but I still believe that team is just so talented. You just got to give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe one time it will just click for them because they just so talented. But by this time, normally the Ravens, they are like, we generally going to win the division. And usually you got to wait till the playoffs to really judge the Ravens accordingly because of their recent playoff struggles. Now they're like, man, we didn't even know we were going to get to the playoffs this year. And now that we look like we have a chance to get to the playoff, we about to hit this gas pedal. Mm-hmm. And the Steelers, it's like they take their foot off the gas. They break, they engine is sputtering. And by the time the Ravens going to come and they're going to take over that division lead, we already mentioned that I believe the way the Steelers played, they have a possibility of missing the playoffs this year because how loaded this AFC conference is right now. Oh, I'm like, and I don't care if Tomlin still wins a plus 500 record. You had a hellified lead in your division, and you still lost it, missed the playoffs. And if I hear, people still want to talk about, oh, he never had a losing streak. I'm like, okay, man, now y'all just want to ignore reality. Yep. Because I know any other franchise, any other head coach, if they did this, people nationally would have been, even if they're not a fan of the team, he still would get national criticism talking about they need a new coach. But with Tomlin, he got a halo around him. And he was just, they going to say he never had a losing record. But his team, if it goes this year and he collapsed, that's going to be a hellified offseason for that franchise.
Yeah. Well, certainly my only saving grace is that I live in New Jersey. So we got the Jets and we got the Giants. Nothing going on. So I don't have guys razzing me because their teams are just as bad. So again, the Giants, we talk about organizations, the Steelers, again, they've been very faithful to their coaches. The Giants, they really haven't been able to get a head coach in a long time. So again, Dayball gets fired after a 20-40 record, but you see their last few picks at coach. And so you got the guy, Mike Kafka, who's the interim right now. Again, people were talking about that, the Giants might be a place for Tomlin. Should the Steelers part ways them, that could be a place or destination where he may land. But again, I think some of the same issues with Tomlin, though, can go with him because I think, for me, the issue is more so, again, his mindset when it comes to coaching, more so than, the results that he's getting. And if he takes it with him, I think you're going to see a lot of similar behaviors. But certainly the Giants do have a young QB, even though he's in the concussion protocol, and Jameis Winston as he gets to start. Certainly this game coming up. But again, you see the coaching woes, just like with the Jets. They can't find the right combination. They can't find the right coach at this time. And then you see, just what happened to him this season. So again, Daniel Jones departs and he goes from 2-8 to 8-2. And then you got Neighbors out for the season, Scatterboo, who is certainly a glimmer of hope for them there. So the Giants are in free fall at this point. But I think next year, I don't think they have to worry about drafting a quarterback. Like I said, I think they got their guy. They just need to get healthy and get the right quarterback there. So could that be a place for Tomlin to land as well? But Shawnee, your thoughts on the Giants? I think it certainly was long overdue for Dayball, and just seeing the success of Daniel Jones, and he couldn't certainly replicate that success. Certainly I agree with the firing. But again, where the Giants go from here, I don't know. But if Steelers get rid of Tomlin, someone's going to be calling. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought that when he made the move to Dart as his quarterback, and Dart was having some success. There were some close games that they was losing, but you clearly saw the offense improve under Jackson Dart. I thought that was going to allow Dayball to at least see the end of the season, because he made the move from Wilson to Dart, and it started working. And it was a jolt of energy back into that offense. And I think that, well, ultimately the Giants, GM, management or whatever, I think he kind of mishandled Dart's, I guess you could say injuries, more with these concussion risks. Because Dart for a while he kept going to these blue tents, and I guess Dayball must have really been putting pressure on the trainers and whatnot to put him back on the field and whatnot, and just because Dart had like potentially three concussion scares until he finally got hit with an actual concussion. So I don't know if that was okay. You just missed me. You trying to get our QB killed? Because a lot of times, a head coach, their tenure with their respective team is usually tied to the starting quarterback. And if a team believes that they have a young quarterback, and their team is struggling, they gonna move from the head coach before they move from the quarterback. But I just thought by moving to Dart, that gave him at least to the end of the season, because you immediately saw improvement in the offense. So I haven't read up on what exactly was the final straw. I know they lost the game, but I think it may be because he was just so kind of reckless with Dart, kind of constantly putting him in the games when it looked like he may have a concussion. He kept going into the blue tent, and then next he coming out with a helmet back on, putting him back in the game. So I guess he was just getting too eager to put Dart back out there, and I guess John said, man, okay, now that he's had a concussion, he probably we don't want you to run him to the ground. So they gave him the boot.
I got you. Coach, your thoughts on the Giants situation, and who do you think the next coach would be, and would Tomlin be a good replacement should the Steelers depart from him? I know you don't agree that he should leave, but again, that is a possibility, especially if they don't make the playoffs.
I think any team Tomlin goes to is going to be a benefit to the team defensive wise. I think the defense is going to elevate. And the Giants have a solid defensive core. The issue is their offense and their quarterback, because Jackson Dart, he's hurt. Jameis Winston will be starting. They just I don't know if he got his color blindness issue together, but he has nothing to lose at this point. He could be a spark for him, like Jackson Dart gets back together. It's going to really take a good offensive-minded coach to coach Jackson Dart. He showed some good highlights over the time that he was starting. So, yeah, any team to me that Tomlin goes to, it's going to be an uptick for the defense for sure. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm not surprised by that ball. Y'all been hearing me saying that all season, like he's the worst coach. But it's just unfortunate. You lose a few games in a row, even though your quarterback stepped in. Russell Wilson seems like every time he get in, he's getting worse and worse. So he's probably on his last leg. But
yeah, I would say so.
It'll be a job open.
Yeah.
Call me. I'll coach the team.
I heard that. We talked about, again, Gerard Mayo. Again, that could be a landing spot for him as well. Again, hadn't heard from him this year. So we'll see. But the interesting, the Giants have never had a black quarterback. I mean, a black head coach ever.
No.
And then like over their 100-year plus history.
Probably
So,
never will.
certainly it would be if they did have a black GM. I'll give them that, especially during the Super Bowl years. They did have a black GM, but they've never had a black head coach. So certainly it would be
Never will.
making history if they decide to do that.
Probably
Last
you
segment, I
want
know
the
we
black head coach to go to that franchise. Maybe nothing. It's almost like a dick.
Well, like I said, they had a black GM, so they had a chance to, but they won with Coughlin. So, but I would say, certainly, I know we spent a lot of the show, the majority of the show on NFL. Do want to touch on one more point, certainly, before we get off this. Again, some very sad news, and I know we like to clown the Cowboys and whatnot, but, certainly this week, devastating news. Marshawn Nealon, only 24 years old, deleted himself, and him and his girlfriend, they were expecting their first baby, and the quote from Dak Prescott, and this hit him apparently really hard, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, he had a brother who also, I think, did a self-deletion. So he's taking it pretty hard. So just what's been the I guess the vibe in Dallas, and again we got another Dallas story to talk about as the banner for the show, but just your thoughts on Nealon and his passing and the Cowboys, and just what's the mood in Dallas at this point?
I mean, it was definitely a sad time, with the radio, and even it was a leading story within the local news. So they definitely talked about it the initial day the news got out, the full story got out, because first it just came out that he passed away, and there was no cause of death was not revealed yet. And then pretty much about 3 hours later, after the story was first released, that's when the details start coming out. So it was definitely one. They started interviewing players, but one player that it was his words was definitely, it brought back memories to, was when they interviewed Dak Prescott, because Dak, he probably about more than anybody on that team can relate, because from what was told, Nealon's mom passed away, I believe, when he was in college or whatnot, and that kind of started his his sadness per se. Dak, when he lost his mom, I believe to cancer, but remember Dak's brother, self-deleted himself. So when they was talking to him, that's when you kind of recognize the tone, how it was in the locker room for the Cowboys. So, yeah, it was a story here locally. Like I say, it was even a primary story in the local news before they got to all the other stuff that happens in the Metroplex. But yeah, it was at the time. I remember they had a moment of silence. I believe the Stars was playing here locally, so they had a moment of silence. I believe they had a moment of silence in the Thursday night game when the news broke out. So yeah, it was definitely a story, and it was definitely a somberness to it locally. But yeah, it was people. Some people was talking about it. They was definitely talking about it on the radio though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but just certainly rest in peace to him, and certainly the Dallas Cowboy organization. When it comes to life and other stuff, like I said, we can joke and pick on each other, sports wise, but real life stuff is that's so tragic. Coach, any thoughts on this? Before we move on.
I mean, yeah, when I heard about it, I just thought like, man, I hope players, I use these things as teaching moments, right? Because, it's unfortunate that he lost his life, but if there's any other player out there, man, and you're going through something like that, man, talk to somebody. ask for help, talk to somebody. Don't be ashamed or be afraid, man, because I'd rather have you here than to just, put yourself in a situation where you jeopardizing your health and your safety, man. And people, may be looking up to you and counting on you. So it's just unfortunate. I think I saw the whole league did a moment of silence from the games that I was watching. They recognized him, but it's just unfortunate, man. In the prime of his life, and off the court, man, is your mental stability is really important. So definitely get the help you need as long as you need it, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move off of this to our main topic for the
One more
NBA.
thing, Mr.
Oh yeah,
Ken.
go
One more
ahead.
thing about that, because I believe when the story first came out, because you remember there was some cops involved, like a pursuit, and I think there was a narrative out there that Nealon must have did something wrong or whatnot, and that's when the police started chasing him, and then once he couldn't go no longer, that's when the story ended.
Hmm.
But uh, that kind of paints the narrative that he did something wrong and they was going after him, and that's false. I believe his girlfriend, when she couldn't reach them, she had a feeling that something dark was potentially could happen, so she called the cops to go go look for him. And once Nealon saw that the cops, was coming to him, trying like a what they call that when cops like just go a well check,
Well-being check.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. Basically, that's what they were doing. But when he saw that, he because he didn't want them to interfere, he didn't want them to try to change his mind. That's when he, you know, took off because he was just at that moment in time. He was determined to, finish the story per se.
yeah,
So that's because I know it was a negative narrative put out there, and I was like, nah, man, that's false. The true thing is they were trying to help him out, and he was just determined to see it through. And unfortunately, that's how it played out.
yeah, yeah. All right. Moving on from this to again our main topic for tonight. So again, I'm going to stay with Shawnee on this one to give the narrative. So we all talked about last year the move where the Mavericks they traded Luka. Now again, there was always some controversy over was it purely Nico Harrison's move? Did the ownership co-sign it? We all knew that Luka he was due to supermax deal that they and they weren't sure just based on his lazy habits and whatnot whether he was worthy of that. I know we had shows on that whether or not Luka was worthy of that, and it was kind of split between between that. But at the same time, we discovered certainly talking to Shawnee and Dante that he was a beloved figure, and I guess maybe they didn't know how beloved he was in Dallas, despite they just went to the finals the year before. So again, a lot of people weren't expecting that move, but certainly the Mavericks, they got draft capital. They got the number one pick in Cooper Flag. But again, they're off to a rough start. They got injured players. And so, a move was made. Again, don't know all the details in terms of what prompted the firing. Is this still issue over the Luka trade? Is that still lingering? From that, and he just couldn't survive it, or did people just get tired of Nico and his attitude or whatever? So Shawnee, fill us in on this breaking story regarding Nico Harrison's firing, and so however you want to spin it.
Man, ever since Nico made that trade, man, Nico had a bullseye on his head, his back, everywhere. I remember there was a video. This dude was just, I think, eating at a restaurant with some friends, and it was one of them restaurants they'll have like their windows open to allow like fresh air to come in, and people was walking by on the sidewalk, noticed Nico, and cussed him out right there. He could even eat in peace. And Nico, he's not really an outspoken dude. It's just basically he just be sitting there taking all these arrows thrown at him, from the fans, from the radio, everything about it. And there was a quote, I believe it was from Draymond. He mentioned that, basically Nico was basically being fired from the team because he never really had a chance to put the team that he traded for on the court. I believe Kyrie got hurt immediately after the trade happened. And then AD is AD. Any given game he can go down. But I believe if Kyrie and AD was on the court now with the role players they have, they would have been a completely different basketball team. Pretty much can, potentially, challenge and make a deep playoff run. But it was a move because people got to know, yes, Luka and Dallas was love. But there was a legit frustration about Luka, mainly because Luka was 100% offense, no defense. People were legitimately getting tired of him complaining to the refs that literally put his teammates at risk on the defensive side of the ball because he wanted to stay on the other end complaining about the refs, and then his lack of shape, his lack of professionalism. So there was legit, I'm talking about from the fans, from the radio hosts. At one time, he had even had a nickname around here calling him the Slovenian Westbrook because he had no problem stat stuffing on the offensive side of the ball, but it wasn't leading to meaningful victories, particularly in the playoffs. Now, of course, that changed when he led them to the finals. And then, because I think that one playoff, and I believe they played versus the Suns in Game 7, and just got annihilated, and Luka just disappeared. And that's when everybody, there was a legit frustration. They loved Luka, but there was a legit frustration to where even people man, we may have to trade Luka because he's good on offense, but he's literally exposing the team on everything else. So it was legit. Now, what really pissed off DFW sports fans, as we talked about it when the story broke, this was probably the most shocking trade in NBA history because it came out of nowhere. There was no words. Luka never mentioned anything about, hey, trade me. There was no words, hey, rumors or whatnot about him trading. I was literally just sitting on the couch and getting a late text message, almost midnight, that he was traded to the Lakers. And many people thought that somebody, I don't know if it was Shams at the time, his account was hacked. That's how, just out the blue it came. And then in return, that the pieces that they commit, people man, you should have went and got Austin Reeves. Some people was just never satisfied with what Dallas got in return for the Luka trade because he is your franchise player. Luka, and he's the franchise player now in LA. So that was the main thing because some people are okay, if you trade him, you damn sure got to get the return in value, and many people just didn't think they did. And I think if you have a healthy Anthony Davis, then yeah, maybe the trade would have worked. But that's the biggest X factor. When people talk about Anthony Davis, they never talk about his skill set. Everybody know. I think Anthony Davis his name is listed as one of the top 75 players in NBA history. Mm-hmm. I think his name is on that list. It's never been about his talent. But the biggest thing about AD is his injury history. And Luka even had injuries himself. But again, this is just coming off the year he took them to the NBA Finals. He literally led them there. So, yeah. So Nico, even though they landed the number one pick with Flag, They was letting Nico have it every time they get, man. In the arena, fire Nico. They was happy about flag, and then they'll stay at the same time. People still holding up signs, fire Nico. He never got over that. I can't remember a GM, because before that trade, Nico was for the most part praised, because they praised him for bringing Kyrie to the Mavericks. Because you remember Kyrie was kind of on shaky ground how it went in Brooklyn, but when he got to Dallas, it completely changed. And he was able to re-sign Kyrie. So they're like, oh, okay. And some of the trades that he had, in particular the big men that he acquired, you immediately saw, dividend on that. So people are like, okay, you're making the right moves. And then in an instant, after he made that Luka trade, you talking about a dude's stock just fell below ground. And he getting it everywhere this dude goes, man. So they literally fire him. When they fire, they literally celebrating. And I saw something online. I don't know if this was associated with the Mavericks or not. They literally was throwing like a welcome back party. It was an ad on Facebook that some association, some unit associated with the team was literally throwing a welcome back party for the fans, celebrating the fact that, okay, Nico Harrison is now fired, so now we can come back and support the Mavericks and, full support the team again. So, yeah, they was definitely celebrating. Again, the news leading off the story locally, that he got fired and whatnot. And poor Nico, every time you just see Nico, it's like they always just showing him just like kind of just sitting there with like a blank look on his face. He wasn't really outspoken and whatnot. His thing was that he believed he had a three-year window to build a championship squad. And at the time when he made a trade, he thought his team would improve defensively, which they would have. But this trade,
Anton saying they were saying fire Nico at Dallas games.
Yeah, because they both played the AAC. Oh yeah, it's everywhere. Every time they had a chance to fire Nico. I'm surprised they didn't put fire Nico in the Omni hotel building where they normally put lights up and graphics.
Oh my God!
I'm surprised they put fire Nico right there. I wouldn't put it past them. But yeah, that trade immediately fell flat, and now skinny Luka, is dominating early part of the NBA. He over there playing well with the injuries the Lakers have, and he's still playing well. And the Mavericks now only won 2 games?
3. The 3-8.
3. Yeah. So yeah, it was some celebration done, locally, because they fired Nico every chance they got.
Gotcha. Coach, your thoughts on the firing? Right move? And just refresh my memory. Did you agree with the trade of Luka? Because again, I know we had a lot of back and forth. I didn't think he was worth the Supermax deal. And again, if he was going to have those lazy habits or whatnot, if you can get max for him, I thought they got some decent, certainly in draft. But these days, I don't think, at least in the NBA, draft picks don't seem to matter as much as they used to. So your thoughts on the Nico firing and where the Mavericks go from here?
I think the Mavericks still have one of the best young teams in the West. But you're missing, when you're missing Kyrie, somebody who can pretty much stabilize the young team, it's hard. And you trade off one of the top 5-10 players in the league all in the same year, and you don't have them coming back. I can see them being where they are, this early in the league, in the season, because you have a lot of young players trying to figure it out. And Cooper Flag, contrary to most people's belief, he's going to be a regular NBA player averaging 17, 18 points a game. That's going to be his NBA career. As far as the firing, I can understand the fact that, with their record, maybe, and based off what he did last year, I don't think they was going to give him too much leeway anyway. They had a winning record coming in to this week. He probably would have been able to stay on a few more weeks or months. They probably would take it as a, month by month basis, but it goes to show, man. Dallas fans have some pull. They have some pull down in Dallas, and any team in Texas, the fans have a say so.
Right.
I noticed that about Texas, except Dallas Cowboys. Jerry don't give a damn about the fans.
Well, speaking, I was going to follow up on that, so I'll ask Shawnee this: if Mark Cuban was still the owner of the Mavericks, would any of these moves have happened?
No, he already stated that. Mark Cuban said he was not. Mark Cuban, because I remember as a Rockets fan, when the GM and James Harden, they was giving Harden passes to do a whole he don't want about him. Hey man, there's a whole gallon over here, man. Be keeping me getting my water intake. But Rockets was showing passes for Harden during his time there, and basically the Mavs was kind of doing the same thing for Luka. Like I mentioned, Luka, it's not like he was just a terror here in DFW, no. But like I mentioned, he had lack of professionalism, in particular being in shape. He'll come into the season out of shape for the most part, and was trying to play himself into shape as the season went along. And so. And you brought up that whole Supermax. There was legit conversations and concerns here locally that people was like, is Luka deserving of the Supermax? Because, again, you're looking at a completely 100% offensive player and zero on the defensive side of the ball. So, yes, his professionalism was definitely questioned here locally. But, yeah, Cuban is on record saying if he was still owning the team, he would definitely not have made that move, or he would have, he still, the GM could still kind of propose his move on him, and he still had to sign off. Cuban would have never even signed off on the deal. So he's on a record for stating that, but I thought when he sold the team, he was telling us that he would still have control over basketball decisions. But obviously that decision, that basketball decision, he had no control over.
Yeah. All right, going to move on from here just quickly as we start to land this plane on this show. Just wanted to visit the college scene. Haven't talked a lot of college football this year, but you have your top 25 in the game. So again, Ohio State certainly is holding on. Indiana, it's a great story. I'm still not sure that I'm buying them yet, especially if they get into a playoff against, you got Alabama's back, they're back to getting back to promise now. Georgia's in the mix. So it seems like, out of this top, since you're going to have 12 teams, if we were going to end it today, again, a lot of the similar players. But, Shawnee, your thoughts on this top 25, where you think, or, certainly at least the top 12, do you think Indiana is going to be a legit threat this year, or they just happen to be there? And I never, ever trust Notre Dame. I haven't trusted Notre Dame since they had Rajib Ishmael back in '88, that they're going to do anything relevant on the schedule. So it's a great story that they're there, but I'm not buying the hype on Notre Dame. They always disappoint when you get to the big moments. But shout out to those guys for being there. That's Freeman, right? Freeman's
Marcus Freeman is here.
Right, yeah. So shout out to him for again keeping the team afloat, because they had some early struggles out the gate, but they seem to right the ship. But your thoughts initially on the list, and any surprises on this list so far?
I think when I was listening to the radio earlier today, people were even throwing Freeman's name as potential NFL coach. Maybe head coach or a coordinator, because I think he's a defensive background. So, and I think even related to the Giants. But I think he has some good going on right now with Notre Dame. So I think he should stay there for a little bit, especially because they get paid more in college. Head coaches do in NFL. So if you get some success, just stay there. But as for the rankings, I believe the last ranking is on December 7th. So, all these rankings, I believe it just gives a team just, okay, where do we stand and what more do we need to do as far as trying to potentially get into the playoff rankings. There's still I still got to get more familiar with the actual rules, because I know it changed. I know it changed from since last year, the first time they had this system. But I believe the first 4 seeds, I think they gonna be guaranteed a bye, and then it fits in from there. But Texas, they find themselves back in the top 10, even after they lost by 7 versus Ohio State. Then they had an ugly loss versus Florida, but because those losses were so early in the season, they was able to work their way back into the top 10. And I believe they could potentially be a top 5 team, even how they kind of, wiggled their way through this year, because they about to play Georgia, and then they last game of the season versus A&M. So if they happen to beat those 2 games, they, that could definitely push them up in the rankings. They could potentially, I don't know if they will host a playoff spot, because I still don't think that will get them to the NFC title game, because even if they beat A&M, I think they both in the SEC West, and I'm assuming if A&M going undefeated until they lose against Texas, they'll still have 1 loss compared to just 1 conference loss compared to 2 losses versus Texas. So I think A&M will still get the nods up. But yeah, it's just the second CFP ranking, and teams that see where they at right now. It's going to be a whole lot of moving going on as these progress. So I don't really make a big deal about these first couple of rankings. It's not until like the last 2 that you really start seeing the teams that will go to their respective to the playoff games.
Gotcha. Coach?
I agree with Shawnee, man. We still got a couple of, a good month of football left. It's going to be some shuffling in that top 10, top 12.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, to see how Indiana's playing.
Yeah.
Ohio State has sort of been under the radar all year. They're a good team. And just in regards to Marcus Freeman, I can see him leaving South Bend for the NFL. Most coaches want to be in the NFL, and they settle for college, but the NFL is the place to be. But it'll be interesting to see, man. If they win out, if say Notre Dame just wins out, go to a national championship, I can see him going to the NFL.
Gotcha. And I would say, as much as I hate to say it, shout out to Alabama, man, because I remember just even last year, you literally had campaigns saying, what can we do to bring Nick Saban back to Alabama? That the luster was off, and they were bound for mediocrity. But again, they're in the dance, which is all you can ask for. So again, shout out to them for meaning to build the program post Nick Saban, and with the portal, which is one of the reasons why Saban got out. And they've climbed back to relevancy in just a couple of years. So I got to give them.
Mr. Bennett, you heard that in the first game of the season. Because remember that first game they played against Florida State, and they had an embarrassing loss at Alabama.
Right.
And they was able to come back, and they've been playing just as good as any other team. Them top 3 teams above them, Alabama has been looking just as good as them.
Yeah. And it went south for Florida State, because they got it kind of to a decent start, and then they fell off, and whatnot as well. So, but we're starting to land this plane, so I guess we can get in some final thought activity. I just had a couple just kind of odds and ends as I was just kind of looking for some stuff. So you had again couple perspectives here that I just wanted to raise. One, again, for a guy who was Hall of Fame bound. And I mean that, like, you talking about one of the best wide receivers ever. For Antonio Brown to find himself in the situation that he's in now, that he was extradited from Dubai. In fact, he was actually brought to New Jersey for a minute, and then I think he's going to be taken back down to Florida to face charges for you see the charges that I'm going to repeat. But you get just a very sad end to a career. And I don't care what folks say. I don't think he's ever been the same since he got that hit from Perfect in that playoff game against Cincinnati. Something just went wrong after that hit from Perfect in that game. And, but that's just how I feel about it, because he had, decent seasons after that, but that was certainly things just weren't the same after that. And then just for note, the tallest player in basketball history, at least organized, whether you talk about NBA, college, or whatever, 7'9" for Florida. Now, again, I think he's going to be more an oddity than a talent. I think I saw maybe some video of him back in high school a couple years ago, and he was already about 7'6" or 7'7" at that time. I don't see necessarily the skill set per se, but certainly 7'9" on the floor in Florida, and certainly he'll be an oddity for sure. People will be looking for him, but I think he can't when he came in. I don't even think he's a starter yet. So will he develop into a decent player or whatnot? I'd have to see more, but certainly it is historic when you see a guy and the fact that he's basically a freshman. He can grow taller, because even Wemby now, I think Wemby's growing about an inch or two since he's been in the league now. And so he's still got room to grow. So you don't know where this is going to go. And just physically, can his body handle the rigors of playing, basketball at a high level? But I just wanted to call those out as final thoughts. But certainly as far as Brown, again, certainly one of my favorite Steelers, and definitely, like I said, I thought he was a lock for the Hall of Fame, but unfortunately, things just went awry. So. That's all I had on that. So again, Shawnee, do you have any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, mine is kind of more of, I actually put this question out on the internet earlier today, because I originally heard the question and idea on the radio this morning. So, but I wanted to ask, I'd love to get the two of your opinions on this. Do you believe that Russell Wilson has played himself out of Hall of Fame contention? Because, if you look at his numbers, his 10th season with Seattle, and I think he had over 30,000 passing yards. He had over 250 total touchdowns. Everybody know he could have had 2 rings, but for a controversial call, took that away from him, even though that call was trying to make him the star. But, he was on his way to 2 rings, But obviously, his career since then, because normally when you see a quarterback, on the downside of their career, okay, I'm about to retire. It don't pile up. Once they see it, they're like, okay, I'm about to retire. I'm done. But he was only, I believe, 33 years old when he left Seattle, so that's still a decent age for an NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And his career, we all know what happened in Denver. He only played, he played what? I say 1.5 seasons, I guess, Then what happened in Pittsburgh, even though he went to the Pro Bowl, but I think he was like an alternative, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He went in 2024. He was a Pro Bowler. And obviously what happened now with the Giants. But his career is just going down, 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 down. So I was like, the question I want, do you believe, or is it stable? Like, did you ever believe he was a Hall of Fame player? And if so, do you believe that he can potentially play himself out of a potential Hall of Fame vote?
Coach, you want to take that one first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Did he play himself out? The way things are going now with the Hall, just all these Halls of Fame, again, I've been making we've had shows on guys who got into the Hall and whatnot, and I talked about the Halls that are very good. So I think he's got Hall of the very good numbers, which is why I think he'll get in eventually. I don't think he's first ballot. I don't even think he's second ballot. He may be, certainly a few down the line to get in. And again, we've had quarterbacks who've had downsides of their career. Joe Namath had a very average career. I mean, but he basically got in because of that Super Bowl that he had. Now, Aaron Rodgers obviously is going to have, as far as metrics, he's got the metrics to be in, no question about it. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, MVPs. Aaron's going to have all that. So no, Aaron definitely didn't play himself out of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But Russell, for sure, I don't think that I don't think his chances necessarily got affected by this last, say, 4 or 5 years in the NFL. But again, just based on what the Hall of Fame criteria is, I think he probably still gets in. Again, it may not be immediate, but I think he gets in. But there's a lot of guys I may pull out of the Hall, as you guys know. I'm a pretty hard grader. If I can't look at you and be like, yeah, then I don't know if you need to be in the Hall of Fame. So that's me. But Coach, your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think Russell Wilson, he's borderline. He may get in on a legacy, I guess, vote or something. But yeah, I think these last 4 years outside of Seattle sort of tainted his achievements. They don't look at what you do on the field anymore. They look at, what you do off the field too sometimes, as we see it, more prevalent now, especially with players of color, let's be honest. If you start having those issues, then getting in the Hall of Fame may not even be a consideration when you're eligible. Just based off Antonio Brown, it's just unfortunate, brother that was at the top, had a great career, and the way he's going through a lot of mental issues, because we can clearly see it's bigger than, the things that they display about him. Hope he gets the help that he needs, because it'd be just a sad thing if he's, does something to harm himself or someone else, so it'd just be a waste of talent. But I hope the brother gets the help that he needs, man. He's still young, so.
Yeah, shout out. And last super chat of the night, certainly, again, we appreciate Anton for his support. Every week he supports us, certainly really appreciate what you do for the channel and being such an active participant in the chat. $5 super chat from him. Something tells me that Antonio Brown will be D-Day's roommate. Head for FCI Dicks.
Salute to Fort Dix, man.
Yeah, I hope not. Well, again, if he did the crime, I won't even say that. If he did the crime, then he's got to be held accountable for that. So I won't even say that. But certainly, again, what a career, what a dynamic player, not just as a receiver, but also as a kickoff and punt returner. He was one of the best. I mean, you guys talk about Devin Hester and whatnot. I'd put Antonio Brown right up there with guys like Devin Hester as well. Great talent and just on every level. I saw him run one back for a touchdown, and he did a front somersault into the end zone and stuck the landing. It was just like you just can't teach that. You know what I mean?
He was a very hard worker.
Yeah. Former sixth round draft pick to the Steelers. And, again, certainly carved out one of the better resumes for a 7-8 year period that I've seen. And like I said, I thought he was a shoe-in Hall of Famer, but, we'll have to.
Well, speaking of somebody played himself out, I mean, he another name that.
Yeah, that's a question. But again, but we gotta wait and see what the charges, how this all works out and whatnot. But if he's convicted of these things that he's being charged with, then that might be a bridge too far for him to get out. But certainly, but what fun for a 7-8 year period, seeing him and Ben Roethlisberger play together. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out the show. Again, we appreciate you guys being with us this week. Certainly for myself, for Sean D, for Dante, who again, get well, fam. Everybody's kind of, kind of down a little bit, but I hope you guys are feeling better and looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And as always, for the coach, keep working on those 5th and 6th grade girls, coach. Whip them into shape, and we're going to see some winners. We're going to see some championships. We're going to see some trophies coming very soon. because you're at the helm. So again, we appreciate and the example that you are being of youth, being of assistance to these youth girls and youth sports and athletics. But for everyone else, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Good night.